Welcome back to the village build series. As you can see here, I've already built 5 themed houses here in the village. In today's video, I'm going to be building the 6th build, the final build, the largest build, the Viking Longhouse. Plan and land, the most important part of any build project. First things first, before we can do anything, we have to prepare the land for our plan. So as you can see here, I'm working with a bit of a slope on this project. So we're going to be digging into the slope, and we're also going to be raising ground away from the slope to create a nice flat area to work with. Alright, done with the land, time for the plan. First things first, I'll go ahead and give you guys the measurements for the stone frame here on the build. We've got 4 sides, the diagonal sides, which are all 4 meters long. We've got 6 sides, which are all the straight sides, which are 8 meters long, except for the 2 straight sides in the middle, which are 10 meters long, and they also stick out 1 meter from the build. Alright, now I'm going to take you guys down into the build to show you a little bit more about this blueprint. First of all, you can see that everything is 10 meters tall with nice 8-meter tall windows inside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how I came up with the angles. It's very simple. You can see I'm just flush with the wall here, and I'm going to angle twice for the corners, then angle twice again. Now I'm flush with the wall again, angle twice. And you're actually going to do the exact same thing with the stone pillars. I'll show you right here. I'm going to start flush with the wall, and then I'm going to angle twice, and now I am flush with the corners. Alright, and then also I have a design on the floor. You know, this is going to be covered up mostly on the inside when you're done with the whole build, so you really don't need this. But if you do want to copy the pattern, just make sure to center it with the center of the side walls. If you don't do that, your floor will end up being off center. Alright, so walls. I've broken up the walls into 2 sections. We have an outside wall section and an inside wall section. On the outside walls, we've really got 4 of the exact same pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to build one of them, and then you can copy that knowledge onto the other 3. Alright, so for the first thing we're going to do, we're going to add some details to this plain stone. So first things first, I've added 1 meter poles to the bottom, 2 meter poles in the middle, and then 1 meter poles on the top. I think it looks better with the 2 meter poles in the middle next to the windows. Now you can see I'm going across these stone pieces and adding in 1 meter beams. We're really just making sure that we trim out all of the stone here to get like multiple layers of details here. Now you can see I'm coming around with 1 meter poles and making a nice little kind of like fence on the bottom, and then above each of the windows I'm adding a little peak, which I think looks nice because, you know, windows sometimes have peaks over them. And don't forget, like I did, to go across the top of the wall and add 1 meter beams here as well. Now for the windows, we're going to use this window right here as the basis for the other 3. The other 3 are a little bit squeezed into their spaces. This one we've got the full size to work with. First things first, I wanted to find a snapping point in the middle of the window, but it does not exist, so we're going to create one. We can use a wooden door to do that. You can see that we're going to get 3 snapping points available, 1 in the house, 1 on the wood, and 1 in the window. You want to use the 1 in the window, and then you want to take out a 1 meter beam, and you're going to get 2 snapping points. One of them, though, is touching the wood. You don't want that one. You want the one that's more in the middle. It's not perfectly in the middle, but it's more in the middle than the one that's touching the wood. Now you can fill in that gap all the way across, and we can start to build our window here in the middle of the stone. You can see I'm using small wood wall pieces, then a big cage wall piece, and then the small cage wall pieces to fill in the rest of the holes. Next, I'm adding a little bit of a detail between the walls and the cage wall pieces. I just felt like it needed kind of like a line there to go across, so I just used some 1 meter beams. And then I went around to the front and got working on the second layer of the window. You can see I'm placing a temporary 1 meter pole inside that pole. That's just giving me a snapping point to do these beams going across. Now I'm going to reach into that pole and try to find that 1 meter pole and take it out. You know, you don't want to leave your temporary pieces in. You always want to get rid of those if you can. And then you can see I'm adding in some nice vertical lines using 1 meter poles into the cage wall window. And now we're going to go around to the inside where I'm going to add some dark wood arches. For these arches, you just want to make sure that you're snapping them kind of onto the stone. That kind of helped me out a little bit. It'll get a little tricky in a minute on the smaller windows, but I'll show you guys a nice trick for that. And then next I'm placing my temporary 1 meter pole into that pole there and my beams across once again, just like we did in the front. You know, I don't really know why I'm placing that 1 meter temporary pole inside of another pole when I could just place it right over to the right in the open. Am I stupid or something? Alright, so now we're done with the main window, which is kind of the template for the other 3 windows. And so now we're going to move on, and I'm not going to show you guys the full thing because you already know how to do it, but I am going to show you the little tricky parts. This window right here is pretty much the same as this window because they're both cut off in the same way, but it's still at heart this same design. So let me show you what you need to know to make sure that you get this right. So build up the beginnings of the window, and then when you're going and building your vertical lines, make sure that you still use 2. It might seem a little cramped, but you still want to use 2 here to make sure that you match up with the window. Here's me still using a temporary pole inside of another pole. I don't know why I'm doing that. But then when you get to the dark wood arches, this is when it gets a little tricky. One side is easy because you're placing into a nice stone pillar, but this side, the stone pillar is angled. So the way I did this is I actually, for each of these diagonal windows, I got rid of the stone pillar for a moment, and it made it way easier to place these dark wood arches. Alright, so this window right here is the exact same window as this one, so you want to go ahead and copy that over. Alright, now for the final of the 4 windows, we've got the diagonal section. I just wanted to show a little bit of this because it is a little bit different. You're just going to have to place your door for your snapping points and then just come around to the other side to place your new beams going across. And then you still want to put a pole, but this time it is just a pole. It's not 2 poles since there is no room for 2. And then for the dark wood arches, you can see I did actually have to get rid of that 2 meter pole on the outside to make room for it. It just seemed like that helped. Now the final thing that I need to show is that when you are on the inside taking this line across your windows, you will actually run into the stone here in the diagonal section. I think it looks really cool. You don't have to do this. It's kind of just personal preference. I just wanted those beams to kind of go directly into the stone. It kind of makes it to where like all the windows feel like they're meeting at the diagonal window. Alright, 1 corner is done, and now all you need to do is copy those windows onto the other 3 corners of the build. Alright, now we're going to finish up the walls with the middle section of the build. We've got the front and the back, and in the front we want a gate, and in the back we want a big window behind the throne. So for the first thing, what we're going to do is copy the exact same type of tracing that we've used on the walls before over onto this section of the build. Now for the window itself, I just free placed some small cage pieces on the inside, and then I went ahead and I copied this side over onto this side. Once you copy that over, you're going to have one section left in the middle here where I just filled in with 1 meter beams and poles on all sides of the stone walls. For the gate, we're going to use the old snapping point technique that we've been using since the beginning of the build. You can see I've just placed my wooden door down, and now I'm using that to get snapping points in the middle of the stone, and then I'm going to place my dark wood gate directly onto these beams. I actually did end up leaving these beams. I like the look of them, but if you want to get rid of those, you can, so it's easier to cross over the threshold into the longhouse. And then you can see up here at the top, what I'm doing is I'm filling in this area above the gate with a nice little opening with some cage pieces. I thought that would look pretty cool. Alright, now we're going to copy this exact design onto the back wall here, except for in the middle, instead of a gate, we'll have a window. Alright, so same exact stuff as before. We've got our trimmings onto the stone, iron cage pieces for the windows. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys what I did for this window here. Now this is actually just the same window we've been doing the entire time, but it is 4 meters wide. So you can see as I'm comparing there, it's the exact same thing, but we've got 3 lines vertically in the middle now. The first thing I wanted to do for the front entrance is to create the supporting pillars. For these pillars, you can see I already have 2 wooden poles here. We're going to use these as our center points for the pillars. Now, the way we make these, it's actually super easy. All you have to do is place more 2-meter poles right up next to the center pole. You can see I'm starting with one where it's kind of like almost halfway into this pole. And then what you're going to do is just rotate twice and do it again. And you're just going to do that all the way around. Alright, once you get done with the first layer, the hard part is done, because the second layer, all you have to do is place the 2-meter poles directly onto the first. Once you get both wooden pillars made, we're going to go ahead and add some 2-meter beams sticking out directly from the wall right here. And then you're going to actually use these 2-meter beams as your placement point for the roof trim itself. You can see I'm starting with 26-degree beams, and then I'm switching over to 45-degree beams for this roof trim. And at the very top, I'm actually going to take the 45-degree beams and angle them twice and pointing outwards over the stairs. And then after that, we're going to take 1-meter poles and place them on each of the intersections of the roof trim. And what you're going to do with these is we're actually going to create a second roof trim up above the original roof trim. So you can see here I'm just matching the same angles, 26 to 45 to 45. So we're going to use 26-degree roof pieces into 45-degree roof pieces, just like the angles of the trim, of course. And then after that, what I did is I started adding some details onto these roof tiles. You can see I'm using 2-meter beams here, just going across. And then at the top, I'm using actually 45-degree angle roof peaks. And now I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side. And then we're going to move on to adding some details. We've got the general shape now. So you can see I'm adding some 1-meter poles in on the sides, some 1-meter beams in here on the front. These are definitely optional. I think they're going to get old in the weather, so if you don't want that, you might not want to put those, but I do think that it's worth it because they look really cool. You'll see here that I'm adding some nice lines going across the roof itself on both sides, and then on the very top, I'm actually using the small cage wall pieces to add a little bit of an extra element to the roof, even adding one here on the end, connecting it up to the point of the roof. I thought that looked really nice. And then finally finishing it up with some trimming going up along the roof. Here in the back, which requires a 45-degree X at the top, and then also in the middle of the roof as well. Alright, so now it's time to do the front stairs. First things first, I really needed to get rid of this runestone, so I tried to bury it, and for the most part this seemed to work, except for the fact that I covered it up. So we'll be back for the runestone. But for now, let's just move on and finish up this staircase. So first things first, you can see I'm adding 2x1 meter stone walls here on the sides of the stairs. I used 2 of them because I wanted the stairs to be really wide. I wanted it to be a really cool, like, grand staircase. And then you can see on the sides here, I decided to add more of the medieval lamppost design that I've been using throughout the village. I figured I should leave in me building it really quick, just in case you haven't seen that yet. And then after that, I added in some standing braziers here on the sides of the staircase. I love these new things. I think they look really great. The only problem is these and also the hanging braziers create a lot of smoke. So I actually did a little skip time thing here to make these go out. And, you know, I still got the benefit of having the lighting features there. They look kind of cool, but I don't have to deal with all the smoke, which blocks the view of the longhouse. Now, at this point, I thought I was done with the front entrance, but I soon realized that the runestone was about to come back. So once again, I dug a hole below the runestone, but this time I decided I wouldn't fill it in. So I just left it empty this time, and to cover up the hole, I built a nice little kind of section out here, a little extra section to the staircase. And honestly, I think that worked out really well because I think this looks really good. And you can see right here, I'm finishing up this section with a little wall to kind of close in the new front area. Alright, so now we're going to get started with the roof. To make this a little bit easier, we're going to split the roof up into 3 stages. We have stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Alright, so just like the walls before, the roof is symmetrical. So I'm just going to show you guys how to build half of it because the other half is exactly the same. Alright, so the roof is actually built on a frame which sticks 1 meter out from the build. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm adding the frame. You can see on the corners, I'm just rotating twice to place the 1 meter beams, just like we did when we were placing the walls originally. And then you can see I'm connecting these up with 2 meter beams, except on the corners where you do kind of want to create a little bit of a curve by throwing in a 1 meter beam in there as well. You can see here from up above what the frame should look like. Alright, so let's get started with stage 1. You can see for these 26-degree panels, I needed to kind of slide them out to the outside to make sure they're in the correct position. There are multiple snapping points there in the corner, so you want to be careful and make sure that your roof panels are actually lining up next to each other. Next, what we're going to do is a really cool technique. Right here, I'm going to take out the 2 meter beams and I'm going to replace them with 1 meter beams. These 1 meter beams are going to give you more snapping points to place your roof tiles on. So I'll show you here, for example, this is going to give us the ability here to place a roof tile right here and then place another one right in the middle of it. You can see we're kind of, we can easily overlap roof tiles with this method. And then you can see I placed another 26-degree roof panel on top of the outside roof panel that was there. Now we'll do that again over here on this side just to make sure that you know exactly what I was doing. We're going to get rid of a beam here, put 2 1 meter beams, and that's going to give us an extra snapping point, and it's going to allow us to take a 26-degree roof tile and overlap the other one. And then once again, the outside roof tile of those two, that's where you'll add your next 26-degree roof panel. Do that again on the other side, and then you'll see we're filling up the middle. Very easy to fill up the middle there. And then we're going to finish up the basic shape for stage 1 roof by adding in one more layer. You can see I placed 3 roof panels there coming up from the middle, and then I'm going to place 1 and 2 more here on the ends. And now we're left with a little bit of a hole here in the middle. And so what we're going to do for this is we're going to use the same trick that I just showed you guys with the 1 meter beams, and we're going to use that here though. So I put in the 1 meter beams, and now I can put a roof piece right where that hole is and fill it in. And you want to just make sure to get rid of those 1 meter beams once you're done. Alright, so the basic shape for the stage 1 roof is done. Now it's time to add some extra details. For the placement of the lines, you can see I've got a 26-degree angle beam matched up with the roof here, and I'm just going to angle it once to the left, and that's going to give me the place to place it. And then you can see I just angled it 2 more times to the left for the next place. Alright, so stage 1 of the roof is done. This little weird spot right here we'll actually be using later on. So now the only thing we need to do is copy stage 1 over onto the other side. Alright, stage 2. So stage 2, the roof will be taller here simply because we're going from 26 degrees to 45-degree angle roof pieces. Now, the key thing here is you can see I'm overlapping the roof panel that is most close to the center of the build. Now, I'll show you in a minute why that's important, but after 2 layers of 45-degree roof pieces, we've got enough height over stage 1 that we can switch to 26, which will give us a nice curve in the roof. Now what you want to do is of course just build the same thing on the other side, and then we can start adding some detail lines with the corresponding beams. So 45-degree beams first because we use 45-degree roof panels, and then 26 at the top. Except for on the side of the roof that faces outwards from the building. So what we're going to do, you can see I'm placing my 26-degree angled pieces, but I'm actually angling them once towards the outside, and then I'm doing it again another time on the second layer, and then another time on the third layer. We're just going to angle once each time, creating a nice smooth curve pointing away from the building. Now from here, what we're going to be dealing with is some holes that now need to be filled in. You can see if I put a roof panel here, it's going to stick out really far through these pieces, and we don't want that to happen. So the way we can fix this, there's actually 2 ways we can fix this. First of all, we're going to use that trick with the 1 meter beam to get extra snapping points, and we're going to overlap a roof panel here, and that's going to cover up a lot of this hole. You can see I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that on both sides. Alright, now the second way that we can cover up these holes is by adding a extra layer of trim on top of the roof. You can see here what I'm doing is I'm just taking 26-degree beams, placing them on top of the roof a little bit further back from the existing 26-degree beams, and you can see I'm just covering the hole with this, just making sure that hole is covered up. And then we're going to cover up more of that hole in just a moment by playing into the actual shape of the roof. You can see the roof tiles up here actually just slightly overlap, so we're going to put two lines going down them, and then building off of these two lines we're going to use 26-degree beams, which are going to fill in most of the rest of this hole. But to fill in just a little bit more, we're going to come down here to the bottom and add some tracing with the 26-degree beams right next to those roof tiles. Now I'm liking the look of this, but what I want to do here is I want to make sure that the peak here looks really cool. So I've gone ahead and carried a nice little diagonal line down the roof, and what I did is the same thing I did before. Each time you place one of these, you just want to angle once. Place one, angle once, place one, angle once, and it's just going to create this really nice curve going all the way up your roof. And of course you want to go ahead and do that on the back side. Alright, now I can show you why we overlapped the roof panels here on the inside of the house, because this is where we're going to add a really nice little line going up the roof, so it kind of plays into the look of the overlapped roof tiles with now a line there as well. And now up on the top of the roof we're going to add some final details. I have absolutely no idea how I got this snapping point right here, but yeah, we're going to add some final details to the roof up here. We're going to use the same small cage piece, like little design thing that I used on the front entrance. So, you can see this time though, we've got 2 layers of it, which I think is really cool. And each meter, I'm going to place a 1 meter tall pole. And then just like we did before, you want to go ahead and connect up the roof peak with these small cage pieces. It's a little trickier here though, because we've got these 26-degree angle beams. So you just want to get rid of those beams for a moment, and then you'll be able to place the cage pieces and then put the beams back. Alright, now I'm going to start construction of the first deck on the building. You can see I'm building it right into that weird hole that was left in the stage 1 roof. This is also when I noticed that the cage wall pieces were breaking, but don't worry, I'll be adding some extra support to the roof in stage 3. Alright, back to the deck. What I'm going to do here is, you can see this is the shape of the deck with these floor pieces, and what I'm going to do is just trace it out with a nice little hand railing using 1 meter beams and 1 meter poles. Alright, so then I just connected up the deck to the roof here on those back pieces. I thought that looked really nice, and it also kind of felt like it just made sense. And then all you need to do now is copy stage 2 on to the other side. Alright, so now let's get started with stage 3. So for stage 1, we used 26-degree roof pieces. Stage 2, we used 45-degree roof pieces, and that gave us a difference in height. But here in stage 3, I had to widen the building so that the height would be taller. So you can see I went to 3 layers of 45-degree roof panels, and then I'm coming to the inside and I'm going to go ahead and place some iron poles to support the roof. Now this is what you don't want to do. You want to place your iron poles where they're actually going to be registered as foundation pieces. So break into your floor, make sure that you're placing them partially in the ground so that they're actually blue. And then from there, you want to add 7 more iron poles on top of that, so a total of 8 iron poles tall. Next, I added some small 1 meter poles in at the bottom of these, just to add a little bit of detail, and then later on we'll be actually adding the same detail to the top of these iron poles. Now you can see I'm adding the final layer of the roof on this side, which is 26 degrees to create a nice little curve at the very top. And then I created a little square here using 2 meter beams connecting up the iron poles. And then after that, what you want to do is go ahead and fill in the roof on the other side. Once you finish adding the roof panels on the other side, we're going to close up the roof with some 26-degree roof peaks. Now, the key to these, though, is that there is room for 2 of them. Just like in stage 2, where we have 2 sets of the cage wall pieces, here we can put 2 sets of the 26-degree roof peaks. So you're going to want to do that with the same method we used before, using a 1 meter beam so that we can overlap these roof peaks. Alright, now we're just going to add some nice details to the roof. First of all, we're going to add a nice little trim to the outside, 3 layers of 45-degree angle pieces, and then 1 layer of 26-degree pieces. Do that on both sides, and then at the top you want to use 2 26-degree X's. And then after that, what we're going to do is add some 2 meter beams up here on the top to cover up the iron poles. We're leaving the iron poles mostly exposed on the inside, but on the outside I wanted it to look a little bit cleaner. And then I'm covering up these roof tiles with a nice little edge here on the top. And then what we're going to do is actually put a roof on this new area. So, we've got 1 meter beams sticking out diagonally and then 2 meter beams connecting those up. And then here I'm going to be placing 45-degree angle roof corners onto the corners of this roof section. And then, the center, you can actually place 2 45-degree angle roof pieces. So that's exactly what I did. I wanted to keep it symmetrical, so I just placed 2 on each side. And then we're actually going to add another roof to this roof. So same thing as before, you want to frame it out with some beams, then add a few poles, and then of course add the roof frame. Roof frame is the same as before, just some diagonal facing 1 meter beams, and then you connect those up with 2 meter beams. And then I finished it up with some nice 45-degree roof corners up top. They're overlapping, creating a really cool design. And then we're going to put a little bit of like a hand railing looking thing up here at the top. There won't actually be access here, but I still felt like a handrail kind of thing made sense. Now we can actually connect up the roof so that we can come back and fix those small cage pieces that weren't staying. So we're going to go back into the iron poles. You can see I'm adding in the nice little like casing over the top, which I did on the bottom. And then we're going to connect this up by just simply adding 2 iron poles sticking out the sides directly into the roof. It's actually a very easy fix, and you want to just go ahead and do that on both sides. Now you can go back to the roof and add the small cage pieces. While you're at it, you might as well go ahead and add more at the very top of the roof, remembering to of course add a 1 meter pole every 1 meter. And then I even added a few cage wall pieces here inside the top little roof. Alright, so now it is time to completely finish up the roof. The final detail is a little deck here on the front and also on the back. So first of all, when I break holes here, 2 tiles here, you can see that it's a little bit low. I don't really want the opening to be that low right above the front entrance. So I want to raise it by just 1 meter, not 2 meters, just 1, which normally would be kind of tricky, but you can see here as I'm looking around for a snapping point, I do actually find one. And I'll explain in just a minute why we have a snapping point here, and I'll show you how to get that exact snapping point on the back side as well. We're actually snapping into the front entrance right there. But next, let's go ahead and start building the deck. We've got 6 small floor pieces here for the deck itself. You can see I put a door in there. I was thinking at the time that that would be where you would enter the deck. And now what I want to do is expand the deck. Down low we expanded it by 1 meter. I want to expand the sides by 1 meter as well. The good thing is it's actually way easier to expand outwards because we can just use the same trick we've been using the whole time, which is adding a 1 meter beam here to create a snapping point. And then you can see I can just go ahead and place my roof tile there. Now, up above that, you can do the exact same thing, and that's exactly what I did. So you want to go ahead and do that on both sides, and now we've got a nice opening here, and you want to just go ahead and expand the floor to fit that opening. Now, if you're wondering why we had to do this, it's because the roof is an odd number of roof tiles. It meets at a center roof tile, so there wasn't enough room. If it was an even number, we would have had 4 meters to work with in the middle, so we had to improvise and kind of create that 4 meters. Alright, so once you finish up the floor with the nice little railing, we're going to add the roof. You can see I used the 1 meter beam trick once again to place a 26-degree roof peak into the wall. Now you want to get rid of that beam, and then you want to add 2 more of those 26-degree roof peaks sticking out over the deck. And now, of course, you just want to go ahead and finish up the roof by adding some more 26-degree roof pieces. You've got 3 on this side, and you want to go ahead and add the same 3 on the other side. Then we can connect up the deck to the roof, and then we can add some details to the roof. So some nice lines here on the ends of the roof tiles, and then also some lines here on the front using 26-degree beams and then a 26-degree X in the middle. And then what we're going to do is add a final detail to this by free placing another line out in front of the roof trim. Alright, so now I'm going to quickly show you guys how to get this snapping point that we used to lower the tiles down so that you can copy the deck onto the back of the roof. So you can see there's no snapping point here, but if you notice that the front entrance actually intersects into the roof by 1 meter, we can actually use that. That was actually what we were snapping into. So we're just going to come around to here and replicate that by using a 1 meter beam sticking out from the wall, then a 45-degree angle roof peak here, which will then be sticking into the wall by 1 meter. And then you can go to the inside and you can see that you will very easily be able to snap these right into place. Now you just want to go ahead and copy the deck onto the back roof. Alright, so the exterior is done, but I still have a lot to show you on the interior. It looks insane. But quickly, I wanted to show you guys what I did to finish up the village. There are a few things that needed to be done. I'm just going to show you a quick before and after shot. Here, I want to build a bridge. You can see I've just got a little line of beams going across. I want to build a dock here. I want to add changes to this dock. I want to add a pagoda where those iron poles are. I've got all sorts of things I want to add to finish up the village. So here is a quick before and after shot. Okay, it is done. Check it out. We've got 2 docks, one dirt dock with a raft, one regular dock right below me with carves. We've got storage carts at both of the docks so that the people can take their goods off the boats and wherever they need to go. We've got a pagoda, we've got some landscaping, and of course we've got a nice little bridge over on the left. Alright, so the interior structure. First things first, I needed to create the second floor. You can see I did that at the top of the stone, just filling it in with regular floor pieces and also small floor pieces in the sides. I just left a nice square open around the iron poles in the center. Next, I decided to put a hearth in the center of the iron poles. Now for me, this is just decoration. I'm not going to actually light this, but if you want to, you could build a chimney all the way up to the roof to the opening right here in the middle of the build. But for me, I wanted to be able to see into the floors above and not have a chimney blocking all of that. So this is just decorative. After that, I added a railing around the opening in the second floor using 1 meter beams and 1 meter poles. Once I finished that, I added in some tables into the room just to give myself an idea of where I could put the staircases and where I couldn't. But it's funny though, because I actually ended up using a completely different design for the tables. And then after that, you can see me building the staircase. Now the staircase, I decided to leave a little bit away from the wall to make the hand railing look really nice. You can see I went up 3 stairs, I put a floor, and then I went up to the second floor. And then I went ahead and opened that up and connected that up with some small floor pieces. And then I just added a classic staircase hand railing using 26-degree beams and 1 meter poles. And then of course I copied the exact same staircase onto the other side of the building. Alright, so I'm liking the look of the structures downstairs. I'll be doing the interior off camera and then giving you guys a tour of it in a little bit, but we do need to head upstairs and finish up the structures up there. So upstairs, we need to connect up the decks on the roof to the second floor. You can see I tried to do that here on this deck with these ladders, but it didn't really work and it was a little bit too close to the staircases. So what I decided is to only put access up to the decks over on this side so that it wouldn't be too close to the staircases that come up from the first floor. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to create catwalks from this deck connecting the other decks, kind of creating a semi third floor which connects up all the decks and gives you access to look out north, south, east, and west from the build. You can see I'm just opening up spaces here. Obviously the doorway didn't work that I initially planned, so I just opened up some spaces on the sides, added some staircases. You can see I'm fixing the other deck, which I had changed and tried to use ladders to make it work. Once I fix up this deck, I'm going to go ahead and create a bridge coming across from the other side. This is where if you wanted to actually use the hearth downstairs, you would have to close this area off and let it vent out the hole in the top, and you wouldn't be able to do this bridge. So you'll have to make that decision right now if you are following along with the build. Alright, now when it comes to making these bridges, we're going to save a little bit of time in the video because it is extremely simple. You just need to go straight across, connecting up both sides, add some floor pieces, and add some hand railings. But of course, course, like I said before, we are actually going to connect up all 4 decks. So you want to go to the side decks as well, bring some floors all the way down and some hand railings as well. But the longer bridges connecting to the sides will actually not be fully supported. You can see I'm losing pieces left and right. So what I'm going to do here is just quickly connect this up into the iron columns. All you need is 2 iron beams here, and you just go straight across the longer bridges and you're good to go. Alright, so now we're going to do some finishing touches on the build. So over here on the second floor, I wanted to kind of seal it off to create a little more of like a homey feel up here, since I'm going to have beds on the second floor. So I'm using here 45-degree angled walls and 26-degree angled walls, and I'm just getting rid of the existing roof trim so that I don't have any extra pieces underneath. And then you can see I added in the opposite 26-degree angled wall there on the top, leaving just a little corner open. You want to do that over here as well, and then you want to go to the other end of the build and do the same thing over there. And what this is going to do is create an awesome opening up here. Look at this. It almost looks like an eye here at the top of the build. Love how these walls came out. Alright, then on the inside, I wanted to make a quick change. Remember, we added 2 iron beams on each side to support the longer bridges. I decided to support the shorter bridges too, just so we have a really cool like square of iron beams when you look up inside of the build. Alright, now I decided to make one final change to the build. Now, if you're here on the second floor and you're trying to get underneath the staircases which lead up to the catwalk, you can see that you can't really fit underneath. I'm flying right now, so I can, but if I turn off flying, you can see that I can't really fit underneath these stairs. Not only that, but there's really not enough room to do a lot over there, and if I were to get rid of this floor, when you walk in the front door, you look up, it'll be wide open. So I decided that is exactly what I would do. This part of the second floor, I decided to get rid of. Alright, so I'm trying to not show you the finished interior yet and just show you this right here. You can see I took the floor out, I left the hand railing, I've left that's still in. And what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that hand railing in just a moment, and we're adding a new hand railing over here on the sides. Alright, so check it out. I love the look of this now that it's open. This looks like, to me, like that room in Harry Potter with all the moving staircases. I would totally show a picture right now, but I don't want to get copyrighted. So if you know, you know. But from here, the interior structures are done. I'm loving the look of this. You can see the front entrance way better, and from the front entrance, you can see the upstairs way better. Now it's time for the tour of the interior. Alright, thank you very much for watching. If you want to stick around for like 10 more seconds, you can see some final cinematic shots of the build. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Tour video of the entire village coming very soon. And of course, as always, have a good one.